Hey guys, welcome to Endo Warriors. I'm your host, Callie Greenberg, and this is where we have unfiltered conversations about endometriosis, women's health, and what it's actually like living with a chronic illness. So grab your glass of wine and let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome to an all-new episode of Endo Warriors. I'm your host, Callie Greenberg, and today we have a fellow Endo Warrior on as my guest. This is Pam Bove. And before I get into it with her, wanted to give you guys just like a little story as to how this episode came to fruition, because typically I make episode notes and then I send them to the guest like a week in advance so that they have time to look over it and like make sure that we're on the same page. And I was sitting in my bed and staring at my computer and at this blank document, and I had the TV on and a movie was playing in the background. And if anybody else is neurodivergent and ADHD, like immediately you will relate to this, but most people like can't have anything on in the background when they're doing work because they lose it's like, distracting. But for
100%.
people like me, I have to have either like music or a TV show on the back. And so I wasn't really like paying attention to it, but as I'm sitting there staring and trying to like write these episode notes, I hear in the background of this movie, this person talking about connection and community. And it was about how every human needs these two things to survive because they're fundamental. And it's as fundamental and needed as water, air, and food. And I was like, that is what this episode is going to be about with Pam, because we had such a long conversation when we did our intro call about what it feels like when you have a disease like this and you're going through it. And yeah, friends and family can be supportive, but if they don't have the physical pain or really understand, they can only be so supportive. And going through my journey with it, I've talked about it before, but Pam and I talked about how isolated and lonely it is, and trauma changes you as a person. And so I decided I'm not going to do any episode notes. And for this episode, Pam and I are just going to have an honest, real conversation about what it's like to finally find somebody who has gone through something just like you and what that does and how it changes a person. So, Pam, first, thank you for being on the show. I want to give you the space and opportunity to tell your endo journey as much or as little as you want to.
Yes, and thank you so much. So excited to be here. Had the jitters all week about being here, and the day has come, and I'm super pumped that we're here. So thank you so much, Callie, for giving me and all endo warriors and advocates a voice, a platform. It is a big thing what you're doing because, as you said, we often feel so isolated and unheard and unseen and unvalidated. So having this platform, and I know I've said this to you before, is so big. It's such a big impact that you have in the community, and I want you to know that. Because we need a place to be able to scream from the rooftops what we're dealing with.
Right.
And
just
so
get angry.
Exactly. So if you'll allow me to be angry.
Girl, unleash that anger.
So my story really began in high school. I was about 16, and I started to feel what I now know in my mature eyes, are symptoms of endometriosis. I really started like menstruating in 7th grade, but didn't start to feel pain, like very much pain associated with it until I was about 16. But prior to that, my periods were very just inconsistent, like super, like there were times where it was like, I guess 5 days. And then there were times where there was like, anywhere from like 10 to 12 days. And then as I got into high school and was around 16, that's when things really were, hey, like it prompted me to like ask adults around me that I trusted. Hey, look, I've noticed this and I'm not seeing this in my peers. Like I'm not seeing this in my fellow classmates, my uh, you know,
Your friend group?
yeah, I'm not seeing this
Yeah.
in them. And I need to know, like, is there something wrong? And so the first person I went to was my a school nurse, actually. I was really shy about talking to my parents about this. So they weren't
Mhm.
the first people I went to. So I went to the school nurse, and the school nurse was like, sort of gave me the talk, if you will. Like, this is part of being a woman, sort of like the birds and the bees, but for girls, right? This is
Sure.
part of being a woman. And, some people have it worse than others. And, it is painful to have these. And, just basically like normalizing this
Mhm.
entire experience for me. And she just said, you're probably just like more like your pain tolerance is probably just very weak. And, you're being sensitive. And so this was happening often where I was going there and I would say, okay, yeah, but like, I'm noticing this and like, I'm noticing this and I'm noticing pain that's not necessarily within my cycle. And for those, she would say, what did you eat at lunch today? What did you have for
Mhm.
breakfast this morning? Like, can you think of anything that you ate that could be upsetting your stomach? And I'm like, yeah, but I know it's not my stomach. It's down there. It's lower. So I was like really trying to vocalize like what was happening to me. And she would always just like, give me the standard, like, here's the Advil, here's the Tylenol, here's the heating pad, go lay down on a cot for like 30 minutes. I'll give you some water. That sort of, and then sending me back to class. And it got to a point where she was genuinely concerned that I might just be doing this for attention, that I was doing this to get out of being in class, right?
It's so
And
frustrating.
so
Like,
frustrating.
even hearing it, like, I know it happens, but, like, it's so frustrating because when you say that, what initially comes to my mind is, what if a little boy came into their nurse's office and said, like, "No joke, my balls hurt."
Right.
Like, what they're gonna treat this they're gonna say, "Oh, it's just in your head?"
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm sure they would be like, "Oh, well, then I think you need to see a specialist. Like, what if you have some kind of, inflammatory thing going down there? Maybe did you sleep with somebody?" Like, I feel like they would give them options. And that
Mhm.
wasn't happening with me, right? Yes, the conversation of have you been sexually active did come up. And, we're not going to lie here. I think a lot of people's first sexual experiences were in high school.
Yeah.
And so it was like, "Oh, well, did you get tested? Do you think you have anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But it was never like, go see go see a specialist, go see a gynecologist, or this is not normal, right? Like
Mhm.
that conversation never happened. So then sort of feeling like, well, gee, maybe it is in my head. But you know what? Like I'll bring it up to my primary care physician. I'll mention it to him and just see like maybe he knows something I don't know, or maybe he might know something that the school nurse doesn't know, right? So go to see him. And no, girl, it was really very much like saying the same things, like echoing like what she was saying and being like, it's just part of being a woman. But however, if you're feeling that concerned about it, I would go see a gynecologist and maybe they can prescribe some birth control. So I went to go see a gynecologist. This was the first time. And this is the was also the first time that I was actually prescribed birth control and antidepressant meds.
Okay. So, okay. So you did not get prescription depression meds from a psychiatrist.
No,
Okay.
this was coming from the gynecologist. So
And
I
at
got
that age, were you questioning that? Or was it just like, did you have any knowledge that that wasn't normal?
I didn't have any knowledge that it wasn't normal. I think back then I really had no awareness of like where people stood necessarily within the healthcare realms. I just figured she's a doctor and she specializes in women's health, right? And so I thought like maybe this might be normal. Maybe people do in fact get these kinds of prescriptions. I think now I can understand that like maybe it would be part of their practice, but not necessarily in the sense that like they might be prescribing it. I'm sure like women with like menopause or something like that, or have
Yeah.
like emotional dysregulation, but they might say, I'd like you to see this psychologist. They might make
Mhm.
that referral versus like being the ones to
Or at
prescribe.
least a therapist. It doesn't need to be a
Yeah,
psychiatrist, but the
right.
fact that they didn't even say, like, "Have you talked to somebody who specializes in mental health?"
Yeah. And I didn't even really think it was a mental health thing, you know what I mean? Like, I
Well,
came there
yeah.
j with concerns that, like, "Hey, I'm having pain. Hey, it hurts to have sex. Hey," like, not that that was a big concern of mine, but, just some of the things that I had noticed, like, all of the symptoms that I was feeling, like, urinary,
Mhm.
urgency, issues with my bowels, pain with my periods, long, heavy bleeding, all of those things, and then just the endo bloating belly thing.
Yep.
That leaves a lot of room for, like, rumors to happen at school and bullying and things like that, and sort of, like, really puts a lot of pressure on your social life, right? And, like, how you show
Hell
up in
yeah.
the world.
Hell
Because
yeah.
the minute you start being like, you yourself know that, because you deal with these symptoms, right? Like, you may not be 100% that day. You don't know when your body's gonna betray you, and you need
I
to
mean, it
call out a
literally
school.
changes it can change 30 minutes to 30 minutes.
Right, right. And you'll need to, like, call out of school, or you can't come to cheerleading practice, or you can't participate in softball today, or, like, you were supposed to hang out and go to the movies with your friends or go to the mall, and you're canceling, like, last minute because as you're getting ready, all of a sudden this pain that you're so familiar with shows up, and you're, like, on the floor, like, I can't tell you how many times that people had said to me in the past, like, like, "You're really flaky, and, like, I don't know
Yep.
if I wanna be friends with you." And it's just like, "What did I do?" You know what I
Right.
mean? And
So the
when they tell
invitations
you,
then stop coming because they're like, "What's the point of even inviting her? She's
"Just gonna
likely going to
cancel."
cancel last minute." And it's like, "No, you don't understand. Like, I want to be there, but
Yeah.
I physically can't."
It's not that I'm just, like, laying in bed naked and just don't wanna go, like, I mean, that's probably what's happening, but that's not really the intention, right? Like, I went there, I accepted the invite, or I accepted the responsibility knowing that, like, I wanna be there, I wanna do this, I
Mhm.
wanna go to cheerleading, I wanna go I wanna do this, like, it and it's I can't control when, and it's, and then when you try to explain to somebody what's happening, like,
Yeah.
"Hey, like, maybe level with me, like, this is what's happening with me." They're like, "Oh, come on, suck it up. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
Take have you heard of Midol? Take a Midol."
I
You know what I mean? And so it went on like this for a long time. So I was on birth control. I was, on and off, depression meds, you know, again, I think it was a really different time for me. I wasn't really, like, well versed in, like, understanding, like, feelings that I was going through, and I think it's too early to even say, in some cases, like, whether or not someone has a mental health issue or
Yeah.
even navigating those waters, because I feel like as a teenager, you're just dealing with so many emotions and so many things and so many, you're in different environments, and so, yeah, like, you're going through a growth phase, and so you might be depressed about something, you might be anxious about something, but to, like, call it that,
Mhm.
I think it's a little early, it's a little premature, and
Mhm.
maybe some people know for sure, but I think that, like, I was still sort of exploring those waters. I was more concerned about what was happening in my pelvic area than I
Absolutely.
was up here, you know?
And that's the thing, mental health, I think, becomes second because you're just like your body you're in physical pain so much that you're not I mean, and at that age, as a teenager, like, especially, I'm 41, I know you're younger than me, but, like, these were not conversations we were having within our friend group.
No. No, and if anything, it would sort of be chalked down to, like, things like, "Oh, well, you're just moody. You just have mood swings. That's normal." Or, like, things like, "Oh, you're just a bitch." Like, just to be frank, like, those are the
Yes.
things that you would hear. Those were the
Right.
conversations, and it was so, like, I went to high school in 2000, between 2003 and 2007, and I feel like the mental health aspect, like, that whole conversation was so stigmatized. God
Oh, yeah.
forbid you found out that any of your classmates had something going on and they were seeing, like, the school psychiatrist or anything like that, like, it
Social
was, like,
death.
talked about. It was, like, talked about. It was, like, never something, it was so taboo. And so,
Yep.
like, to come out and say, like, you might have a concern, it was, like, it was not even up here. It was
Mhm.
not, I was actively avoiding that for a long time. So I really didn't address, I found out later, and again, I know now in my adult mind that, like, yeah, there were some things that were happening that I now know. But again, my chief concern at the time was, what is going on with my periods?
Mhm.
Like, what is happening? Why do I feel like this all the time? And I'm not seeing this in anybody else that I knew. Then it was like, go to my
Scary.
parents. My parents were like, not much help either. Not because they don't want that help, but I also have to understand, and I'm sure if we have any cultural, like foreign listeners on here, a lot of times culture does get in the way.
Yes.
And it's like a generational thing that we bring with us, that
Mhm.
generational trauma, because there are subjects that we're just not allowed to talk about. So my mom really didn't, it wasn't a good point of reference because she didn't have a good point of reference either. Like her mom didn't talk to her about her monthly cycle and all the things that she went through or any complications. So she didn't have a good reference point either of like what would constitute as normal. You know what I mean?
So true.
Um,
Good point.
so, and she ended up having a hysterectomy in her, I think she was 38, because they had found abnormal cells. And that was the first like suggestion that the doctor said was like, before this turns into cancer, we're going to go ahead and do a
Mm.
hysterectomy. So it was like she went into early menopause. Oddly enough, endometriosis was found, but there was no conversation around it. It was like, here's the pathology results. We did find the abnormal cells. Thank God we got in there when we did. Oh, and we found endometriosis. And that was
And that
it.
was
There
your
was
brush off.
no education about like, what does this mean? No like follow up as to like, you're going to feel like this is going to be an ongoing thing. You may feel it in another area. She does have one ovary left, but like there was just point blank, no conversation. It was
Or
just
even
so
just to
matter of
say, like,
fact.
that there's some like, for a doctor to just say, like, "This is something to keep on your radar because your daughter might end up having it," like, I don't
Nothing.
know. Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing. She'll be 60 this year. So again, this was however long 60 minus 38 is, right? Like I can't think of math right now, but that's how long ago it was. And so maybe they just didn't know at the time that there is a genealogical, it's
Mhm.
hereditary, Um so yeah, no conversation around that. So she that was the one time she heard of endometriosis before now, and never thought to bring it back up to my attention or say like, because again, she didn't know. So I'm going through my life. I'm going through my 20s. I'm going through like my early 30s, and I'm still not knowing what's going on with me until 2018. So 2018, I had in that year, like I had gone to my gynecologist for my yearly. I had said, hey, listen, like I was wondering if there is a different kind of birth control I can get on, something that's a little bit more low maintenance, because you got to take this pill every day at the same time, and
Sure.
you live a busy life, like you might forget. And so I was just looking for something that was going to be a little bit more low maintenance. And she says, actually, yes, there is something you can get. We talked about the IUD. Not for me. I didn't want to do it at the time. We talked about the NuvaRing, and she was like, this is great because it's like a little, like, it looks like a hair elastic almost, but it's clear and you can just stick it in there and go through the four however long, 4 weeks, and then pull it out. You'll have your period, and when you're done, you get another one, and it's you don't have to come here to like do any maintenance for this.
It's like the crock pot for periods.
Yeah, literally. Yep.
Set it and then forget about it.
And forget it, literally. So I was like, oh, this is great. Like, let's do it. And so 6 months would go by, and at the time, important to note, I was working in retail. So for all my retail people on here that are listening, right? I'm no longer in retail, but I hear you, I feel you. This sucks.
So
In
bad.
retail. So at the time, I was in retail, and there was like taking a day off, not a thing. You cannot take a day off because there will be nobody to open or close the store. And at the time, I was also a assistant store manager. So that I had no choice here. So
Mhm.
that Monday of that particular week, I was feeling some chest pain. Now I'll be honest, I had some Bertucci's that day, and I thought, God, I mean, this is honest to God what I thought happened. I was like, I must have overdid it because I'm having some. I thought it was heartburn, like
Yeah.
some chest pains. I was like, I must have really overdid it. So I drank tons of water. Then I, realizing that this isn't going away, and I'm taking like, you know, uh, antacids and everything.
Mhm.
I'm trying to stay hydrated. I was taking Tylenol, and I was feeling like that whole week, like it was just pain and it was hurting to breathe. And I finally said to my mom, that Friday, I was like, I have the day off today. So I think I'm gonna go to the emergency room just to like do a workup and see like if everything's good in there, because that pain won't go away. And I don't know if I just really messed something up in there. So I go to the emergency room. Hours go by. They're like, we're gonna get you in to do a chest CT. I do the chest CT, more hours go by. And then finally the doctor comes in and he says, we're gonna actually admit you, because you actually have three, and they're bilateral, like so on both lungs, you have
Mhm.
3 blood clots. So that entire week, I had pulmonary embolisms and no idea. He was like, "I don't know why you waited," and I was like, "Well, because I don't have the time. Like, I don't physically have the time to come out here and see you. I have to open and close a store.
Mhm.
I can't.
I'm like, I have
I
to
don't
pay
have
bills,
coverage,
dude.
right?" Right? Like, I can't do that. So I was in the hospital for a week, had, was on blood thinners. Meanwhile, my phone's going off from my boss being like, "When you coming back?" Right? Not really caring that like I could have died, right? But like, "When you coming back?" And a hematologist comes and sees me and says, "Hey, so we did this testing after we took they took a lot of blood work, and this is something that we normally wouldn't do otherwise until someone's had an episode like this. But you have a blood disorder. Did you know this?" And I was like, "No idea. No, I didn't know." And he says, "It's hereditary. So your mom probably has it. We'd have to get
Mhm.
her to check in." So there's another thing that she discovered, that she
Mhm.
also has this blood disorder, which would explain a lot of things that were happening to her when she was younger that she couldn't really explain to me. Anyway, back to the story. Um, so I leave the, he tells me, "I see that you had been recently prescribed the NuvaRing. Do you still have that in you now?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "I need you to take it out because," and he reminds me of those commercials that we see for
Mhm.
drugs, where they very quickly at the end of the commercial say, some people may experience heart attack, stroke, all those things. I was in that percentage of people that ended up experiencing the things that they warn you about.
Crazy.
And it was all, this all was triggered by the NuvaRing because I had this blood disorder that I didn't know about.
Mhm.
So after this, I was terrified of taking birth control. Fast forward to when I ended up leaving retail, and this was after the pandemic. Obviously, after the pandemic, like things very different. Retail hit a whole different kind of landscape, and it just wasn't feasible enough for me. So I ended up switching careers and got back into healthcare. Um, so I started working for a hospital here in Boston, and it was working for minimally invasive gynecological surgery. Right before then, I had no idea what
Mhm.
what endo was. I didn't
Yeah.
know what MIGS was. I didn't know any of that. And so I'm there and I'm learning very quickly, learning about fibroids, learning about all these reproductive complex issues, and one of those things was endometriosis. But I'm at a stage here, like I'm in the point of the process where people have, been referred. At this point,
Mhm.
someone believes them, they're being referred, and they're coming here to get a consult for surgery. So I'm coming in that point in people's life,
'Kay.
and I'm hearing those calls, and I'm hearing like my symptoms in what they're saying, right? And so after some time, I was like, this is this is way too familiar. It can't just be a coincidence that these are the same feelings I'm feeling. Let me go and ask if I could have a consultation. So I asked. I went to my doctors that I was working for. I said, "I have this suspicion because of all the conversations that I'm having with patients on the phone. Could this be my issue?" And they were like, "Yes, let's get you in. Let's see what's going on. At the very least, we could rule it out." And this was like the first time that like somebody was willing to help me. Right. So I was like, "Oh, okay, great." We do an MRI. MRI comes back normal. And so I'm feeling deflated, like, "Oh, okay, I guess there's nothing wrong with me." But again, this doctor was like, "Actually, let's just keep going in this process. Like, I think we should still, it's worth going in and doing a diagnostic laparoscopic surgery. And, should we find evidence of disease, then we will excise what's there." And I was like, okay, great. So we
Mm,
went ahead and did that surgery December of 2022, and it was confirmed you
hmm,
have endometriosis.
mm,
And it was like, I was happy that there was
mhm.
finally a name to all I've been dealing with for like years, right? And that someone finally took action
Yeah.
and believed me that I wasn't okay. But there was some sadness that came with it
Mhm.
because that's when I was started to learn that, like, yeah, this might not be your only surgery. Like, this will come back. This is a lifelong thing, and it's not just going to attack your reproductive system. It's a full body systemic disease, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like every little thing now, it's like you're almost a hypochondriac. Like, you're like, oh, it hurts to breathe. Oh, like my brain hurts. Oh, I
Yeah.
have a headache. Like you start to wonder, like, is it everywhere? Like, what's going on? Um, Living like that now that I know, because again, around the pandemic, that's when I decided to address mental health.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
a lot of people,
A lot of people did.
a
I think
lot
a
of
lot of
people
people
did.
figured out they have a drinking problem,
It's a
they're
problem.
depressed, they have anxiety.
Yep, because now you're alone in your thoughts with
Yeah.
nowhere to go, and that's when you start to realize you're sitting in your thoughts and you're like, "There is something wrong." Right?
Right?
There is something I need to address here, and that's when I found out, around that time that I did in fact have depression and anxiety, and a lot of anxiety. So coupled with knowing this information, I was like feeling super low about the outlook of my life. I was
Mm,
feeling super anxious about, like, what could this mean for me going forward? And just like the unknown, you know what I mean? I
yeah.
think that was really bad. And there was, even before this, like, I was dealing with a lot of bed rotting, and that's what
Mhm.
kind of prompted me into, like, going and really investigating what was happening to me. And again, this isn't to say that it's bad to bed rot. I think there's a healthy amount of bed rotting,
Everything in
that
moderation.
you should do everything in moderation, right? But this was like I wasn't leaving my house. I was like super antisocial, and like there was a definite change in what was going on at the time. And so when this happened, like, I sort of became like a hermit. I wasn't
Yeah,
leaving the house, right?
totally
Like,
get it.
I wasn't wanting to, like, do anything with anybody, like, not even, like, go down the street to go get a coffee, God forbid.
Yep.
I was really, like, not taking care of myself, and just really sad
Yeah,
about everything
everything.
that was going on, just everything.
But, like, at
And
the same
so
time too, like, feeling like, "But why am I so sad?" Like, you're
right,
stuck in this sadness and you don't know how to get out of it, but, like, you're n and then immediately, I think it's just human response to try and, like, then figure out. It's like, "Okay, but what's been going on that would make me sad?" And you can't figure it out because you don't know that it's part of something bigger.
right, like, you can't figure out, like, the root cause per se, right?
Yeah.
And, and I feel like therapy does help, seeing a specialist, a psychiatrist does help, but no amount of any of that is ever going to, at least for me, it feels like it's never going to fully resolve it. And
No.
when I was dealing with between 2022 and now, right? It's been trying to find community,
Mhm.
trying to find other people who understand you, because I can have and my best friend, she gets me. You know what I mean? She gets me at the end of the day, but she herself doesn't have this problem, right? So it for anyone, I think, even like my peers, close friends of mine, they can, they can be there and be supportive and say whatever they want to say about, I believe you, I trust you, I'm here to support you if you need me. But at the end of the day, I think if they don't have it, they can't fathom like exactly what you're going through and the pain you're going through. And it's been tough. I think I'm so happy for where everyone I know is in their life.
Mhm.
They've, established their families. They, in this world of finding shit men, have found a partner, right? And have wonderful families and kids, and they're growing, and they're gonna, I don't have that. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I'm behind, and I feel like I don't even know if I'm gonna get that. And it sucks feeling that way because I can't always vocalize, this is how I feel. I can't always participate in conversations about like what my friends are, because my friends are they're moms. And
Yeah.
so sometimes there are things that I can't even comment or relate
Yeah.
on because I feel like I've never been in that situation to even say anything remotely educated about what they're talking about. So sometimes, yeah, it's not intentional. It's never intentional, but sometimes I feel like I'm always going to be the third wheel.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love my best friend, and I love my friends. I love the connections I've made. I love, again, it's not a hate thing. It's not an envy thing. It's just sometimes I feel like I'm the odd
It's
man
a
out.
natural human response to have, Pam.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was in a relationship, I was married for 10 years, and, like, as soon as I became single again, I and then on top of which, knew that I was never gonna be able to have biological children, I still struggle, and I have said this before in the show, but, like, I don't know where I belong.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know
it's
what social group I belong because I can't really relate to anything. Like, I can't relate to the stories about kids, and it's even that feeling of, like, I'll never get to relate to that.
like, I
And
mean,
then yeah.
I feel like all the invites I get now are like things like somebody's baby shower and
Mm,
someone's engagement and someone's like all of these kinds of invites are the things that I'm getting, and I'm happy to go, and I'm super happy for whoever it is that is hitting this chapter in their life. I'm invited to a lot of kids' birthdays, and again, happy to go, happy to see the kid grow up, like whoever it is, you know what I mean?
sure.
And I'm happy to be a part of people's lives in that way, but there's always going to be this sense of like, when is it gonna be my time? Like,
Yeah,
am I gonna have these? Am I gonna have these experiences? And there is a grief that comes around that.
massive grief.
Um, and it's like now I'm having to kind of face these things because fast forward to this past year, so let me just go back. I had that surgery. Within 2 to 3 no, 3 to 4 months, I started to feel pains again.
Mm,
Went back, said, "I'm feeling pain." And it was like, "Yeah, this is to be expected. We're not gonna put you in an MRI because too much MRI, that's not good for
sure.
you either. Let's try a couple of things first, and then we'll revisit, like, sort of trial and error. We're gonna check back in 6 months. We're gonna check back in 6 months after changing something." So, you know, 2025 rolls around, and in the beginning of the year I had my annual. I said, "Look, I know that we were trialing and erroring things. I really do wouldn't want to get an MRI. I think there's something wrong. It's just getting worse. It's happening way more frequently." So March comes around, I get an MRI again. MRI comes back normal, and I wish I wish you guys could see this. The report said unremarkable, uterus unremarkable. It talked about the dimensions. It said that there was an IUD visualized, right? IUD in situ is the language they use. But nowhere in the language of this report, this very short report, does it say that there is adhesions all over my reproductive system, and that it's basically being sequestered and stuck to the left pelvic wall, tipped back, hitting, like, basically putting pressure on my bladder, and that my colon was stuck, right? Nowhere does it say that in the report. So, as a person who may not be health literate, for example,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
They may have looked at this report and be like, "Oh, okay.
Yep.
Everything's fine. I don't need to follow up," right? But
100%.
me knowing what I know, right? I said, "No, I still wanna have my follow-up. I still wanna go through my consult again, and I want them to look at this because they might see something that I'm not seeing." I know my tailbone, I know my pelvic bone, but I don't know what that mess is in the middle. So I had my consult. This was with, someone still in the same practice. It's just that the other person was getting ready to go on maternity, and so I couldn't see her. I saw him, great doctor. I won't say who he is, but wonderful doctor. Super happy that I got my consult with him. He just really took the time to like listen to me. And I think that's what a lot of doctors need, is to just listen to your
Mhm.
patients. Listen to them. Trust me, you're not doing anything bad by not listening to them. Listen to them and don't label them difficult. Anyway, he says, "Did you look at the images?" And I was like, "Yeah, but can we go through them together?" And he was like, "I just want to show you." And he brings me to the attention of this screen and he shows me, and he was like, "This is not normal." And he shows me. And it's clear as day in the
Yeah.
image, right? That that's not normal. So he's like, "We're going to go forward with the surgery." I had my surgery. When he got in there, he tells me, yes, your sigmoid colon was stuck. I had to carefully separate everything. I had to remove the adhesions. I found lesions. I found disease in your uterosacral ligaments. I found, he cleaned everything up. He showed me before and afters, and it's like cleaning, you know what I mean? And put everything back, didn't, there wasn't any complications after this, which was great. I know that that's not always the case, and there's always room for risk, but everything's intact, which is good, right? But while I was in recovery, in those 6 to 8 weeks that I was in recovery, it was just like something snapped in me, because I'm just like, holy crap, this is going to be my life.
Yeah.
Every 2 years, I'm going to be going and praying that everything's going to be fixed, and it's just, why did it take so long? It's this anger that I got. Like, this should not have been my life. Like, how many things did I miss out on because of this disease, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, again, coming from a point where I was feeling super depressed, super low, super isolated, not finding people that I could relate to. I was really looking for community and purpose. Because
Yeah.
honestly, like, with the whole fertility thing being like a huge question mark, like, what was I aspiring to in my life? I had
Mhm.
no idea what my purpose was. And it's just like a sudden light bulb went off, and I was like, I don't want anyone else to go through this. I don't want our future generation, I don't want them to have to wait 16, 20, whatever
Even a
ridiculous,
year.
years to find out that this is wreaking havoc in their bodies. Like,
Yeah.
this was just a huge wake-up call for me. And so right then and there, I was like, I'm going to create an Instagram. I didn't know what it was going to look like yet. I didn't know. I knew that I wanted to talk about endometriosis. I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically, but I was like, let me start off by sharing my story. And then maybe sharing like tips about, like, if anyone else is going through these kinds of surgeries, like, what are some helpful things to know ahead of time. And then
Mhm.
it was like, did you know that you could have endometriosis in your thoracic region? Like, let me show you some slides on this. And that's what it sort of evolved into, was like trying to educate people that this isn't just a reproductive disease. It's not. It's a full body systemic disease. And I wanted to share like symptoms. I wanted to share education. I wanted to share like resources if possible. And then I wanted to like find others within the community that were sharing information, that were making big strides. And I slowly started to come across people who were getting involved in things like advocacy
Mhm.
and policy. And
Mm.
I was like, that's bingo. That's
Yeah.
it. That's what I want to do. If anything else in life, I want to leave some kind of meaningful legacy, something that, 10, 15 years from now, somebody can say, hey, like, this is the way it is because Pamela and Callie and this person and this other
Yeah.
person had something to do with it. They were angry enough that they went to, the government and said, this is what we want.
That's
And
how
you know
change
what I mean?
happens, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate, but, like, I mean, think about it. Anybody who has fought a fight to change policy or change something that affects the bigger population, you have to get loud, and it takes people like us, and all the other women out there who are doing the same thing, and you just have to fight. And I felt exactly like you did after everything happened, and like slowly was processing and coming out of trauma therapy. And I just was like, that anger, man, when it sets, it fucking sets, and it is fuel, let me tell
Mm,
you, because I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, my life could have gone a completely different way in terms of fertility and pain. Like, to live from 13 to 37 in constant pain and everything, as everybody knows who's listening to this. But like, fuck, like, had had the doctors just listened to me when I was 13, like, what would my life look like now in terms of if I'm just looking at it from fertility? And so I was like, same as you. What is my purpose? Like, I can talk about this and I can get upset about it and talk about it till I go red in the face. But like, what am I going to do about it? And
yeah.
that's the same thing like you. I was like, no, nope, I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. Like, I'm going to do something about it. And I was like, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to start my own company and I'm just going to dive deep and get as involved as I possibly can. And I didn't care if 5 people listened to the podcast or reached out to me. And that's when I started reaching out to people too, because I was like, I need community and I need to connect with people who know how I feel. And then I came across you on Instagram and I reached out to you and you immediately wrote back. And everybody knows it doesn't matter what kind of trauma you go through, but like when you find those people, that community, oh God, it's a full body transformation.
Yes. Yes,
And
absolutely.
when we talked on the phone, it just was like, you're doing the same thing that I'm doing. And so is this person. And so is this person. And like, all hands on deck. Let's, the more people that get involved, let's do it. And anybody that I've talked to so far who has asked to come onto the podcast, or if I've asked, there is just this immediate connection. Like the second I pick up the phone or call somebody and the other person on the other line I know is an Endo Warrior, it's like souls have met, right? And
Yes.
one of the things you asked me when we were on the phone together was you asked if I was going to the Endo Summit. And I said, no, I got a virtual ticket because like I don't know anybody that's going. And I know this is crazy for anybody that like has met me or talked to me. I said to you, like, I have social anxiety. And you said, yeah, I'm going. And because you said that, Pam, and I knew one person, I immediately booked a flight and a
Immediately.
hotel room. Immediately. And I was like,
Immediately.
just knowing that, like, you're a stranger to some, like, to, I've met you via Meet, Google Meet, and like we've talked on the phone, but like knowing that I was going to know one person and it was you, and like, even though we didn't know each other, I immediately was like, felt comfortable going.
Yeah.
And
No,
that says so
absolutely.
much about like exactly what I said earlier. Like it is fundamental for us to have community and to connect.
Yes. No, absolutely. And I feel like I'm going to say this right now. Like, I think when we finally like see each other and we're breathing the same air, I'm probably going to cry
Yeah,
because like,
totally. Me too.
honestly, there's so many people that I've met, within this community within the last 6, 7 months that like live nowhere near me, right? Nowhere near me. I can't even reach out and hug them if I wanted
Yeah.
to, right? But I love them to death because we are fighting the same fight. We get each other. It's like it's for the like I feel like for the very first time I'm not alone,
Yes.
you know? And that's a crazy thing to feel when you've been feeling like you're on an island and nobody gets you. Like
Hmm.
again, you can have all the support in your world from your friends and your family, but unless they are dealing with the same pain and understand what that struggle looks like, they could never fathom what you're going through. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
at the end of the day, it's not that it's empty words, it's just that they can't feel what you feel. So
And that's
fundamentally,
like
there's
with
gonna
any
be some
trauma.
things. Yeah.
Like,
They're just not gonna get it,
yeah.
right? And that's okay. And that's okay. But this is why finding community, is so important for any chronic disease. Any chronic disease, like
Yep.
finding your people, your tribe, because you need to have like as a human, you need to be able to find people that you relate to.
Hmm.
And it's like it's so crazy when I hear things like, "Oh yeah, well don't make it your whole personality." And I'm like, "But
Fuck that.
are
I'm
you
sorry.
serious?
Like,
Don't make
no,
it
this
your
is
whole
like what I've
personality?"
lived my entire life. Don't make it your full life. Like, I'm sorry. Goodbye. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye, you don't get it, right? Like,
Bye. As Aria Grande says, thank you.
yeah.
Next.
Thank you, next. This is so important to me. Like, don't take this away from me. This is so important to me. And I will keep fighting tooth and nail until we see some change. And I will
Absolutely.
be there, I hope to be there for the next generation of people dealing with this, in the sense that like I'm going to help guide them
Hmm.
get through this process. And hopefully by then some of the challenges that we're dealing with like will have been eradicated, right? One can only
Fingers
hope.
crossed.
One
Fingers
can only
crossed.
hope. But it's just crazy, and, like, I know that I was telling you this the other day on the phone. Uh, you know how Facebook, um, will be like, hey, like 4 years ago, you posted this, right?
Yep.
And it just gives you that reminder that you were you were so icky back
Like,
then.
thanks, Facebook,
Right?
for reminding me of what an idiot I looked
Yeah.
like.
There
Appreciate
is it's so crazy. I would love to just wipe my Facebook clean and start over. I've been tempted, right? But it's just so much to get through and not really friendly to navigate when you're trying to delete that many things. Cause like I had Facebook since like 2007, I think it was. Back when remember when you had to be in a
Yeah, I was in
school?
college when my college I went to University of Wisconsin, and when it got to Wisconsin, I think I was a sophomore in college when I first got access to it.
Yeah, you had to be at a school. You had to be
Yeah,
enrolled at a school before you could
yeah,
even join. And so I've had it since then. And it's just crazy forcefully going down memory lane because you're not actually looking to see any of this, but it'll just be like, hey, 10 years ago, you did this and you were here. And it's just so crazy to think about who you were
yeah.
versus who you are now and like the things that you care about. Like back then, like
Mhm.
I really put a lot of stock on whether or not I was liked, and like fear, like FOMO, fear of
Oh,
missing out was
oh
a
my
big
god.
thing. Like, God forbid you didn't go to this one clubbing event or whatever that was going to
Now I'm
be
like,
here.
please don't invite me. Please cancel.
Yeah.
I do not
But
want
it
to
was
leave my bed like
like if you weren't
asleep
in
by
those
9:30.
seriously. No, because back then, if you weren't in those pictures, 2008 to 2012, if you were not in those club pictures, like you were a loser, right? Like you
Oh
just,
yeah.
like, where were you? Like, you know what I mean? And now it's just like, I can't even, it's 9:30. You ask me what I'm doing. I'm in my pajamas.
Yeah.
Like, especially now in the winter where it like gets dark at, 4. Like, I'm changing into my jammies. I'm usually
Oh,
in
for sure.
jammies all day, but, like, I'm in my jammies. Like, I'm ready, like, I'm in bed, I'm in this position, like, looking for what the next thing I'm gonna binge watch is.
Oh, absolutely. But I also think it's important too, because I had this conversation with my mom last night when I went to dinner with her, and I was like, I actually was talking to her about the conversation we had, and when you made that point, I was like, throughout this entire journey, and for all the listeners, I want you to take a moment, because I think when you're in survival mode 24/7, you don't take the time to be like, wow, I actually am really strong. Like, I've actually navigated this with a lot of strength, and you don't give yourself enough credit. And for the first time last night, I said to my mom, like, updating her on stuff that was going on with my show and other things that are going on. And I was like, I'm really proud of myself. Like,
Mm,
I'm doing this. So I just want everyone out there, because I know it doesn't feel like you're strong, because your body is literally working against you, and you're being told by doctors and all of these people that you're supposed to trust that nothing is wrong. I want you to just give yourself a pat on the back and look in the mirror and tell yourself, I am strong, because you
yeah,
are.
you are, 100%, and celebrate all of those little wins.
All of
All of
them.
the little wins, celebrate them because they might not seem like the biggest deal to some people, but you know what? They are the biggest deal. The fact that you were even able to get through the day,
Even like
that's a
get
big
out of
win.
bed. That's a
Yeah.
win.
Getting
That's a
get
win.
finishing with your shower, because that's
Yep.
a whole to do. That's a win. The fact that you showered, that's a win. Like
Absolutely.
that you panic cleaned your room, that's a win. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and even and if you didn't, you know what I mean? Like, give yourself the grace that you
Exactly.
didn't. You know what I mean? Don't hurt. We do a lot of self-harm
Yep.
in the way we talk to ourselves.
A lot
And
of
I think we
shame.
need to just, yeah, a lot of shame, a lot of blaming and
Yep.
stuff like that. And I think that you have to, at the end of the day, like you are your own best ally and your own best cheerleader.
Mhm.
You got to just, push yourself and reward yourself when possible.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I think those are super important things. And I think, finding community and finding purpose. So for anyone who's listening here
Yes,
that is also an endo warrior, if you haven't found your purpose, trust me, you will.
you will.
And if you're doing things, if you're putting in your little grain of salt within this community, it is not unnoticed. Keep
No.
doing what you're doing because we're all on the same team. We all want the same things. We
And
all
be each
want
other's cheerleaders. Like,
yes.
don't make it a competition about like, if you're putting yourself out there in such a vulnerable way that you are telling your story on Instagram, or you are making your page a platform of advocacy and education, that is what we're all here to do. Like, my main purpose was just exactly like Pam's. It was like, I didn't want this to be another podcast where I was just like 1 in 10.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be like, if I were to listen to a podcast, like, this is what I would want to listen to, because these are the things that are the most important. And I just, haters are going to hate. And
Yeah.
there's always going to be haters. But I just want to say to everybody, like, if you are posting about your journey or anything, thank you. That's what we're all
Thank
here
you.
for. And let's support one another and lift one another up, because we want the same thing, right?
Yes. And it takes a lot of bravery to post
Huge.
something so personal like that. So for those who haven't, do it. What's stopping you? You know what I mean?
100%.
If I find you, I will
Yeah,
support you. You
totally.
know?
And like, that's, kind of what I was going to kind of wrap the episode up about, was just, I'm an open book. I know a lot of people aren't. I'm also a lot of energy, which I know a lot of people aren't. I'm very opinionated, but for anybody out there who has found me and messages me, I message immediately back, because to me, if you're reaching out, that means you want community, and I want it too. I was looking for it. I found Pam. I found some other, girls that have just been so supportive. And so reach out to Pam, and her socials are
Endo with Pam.
Endo with Pam, and mine is Endo Warriors podcast. And you guys, like, share other people's posts. Again, like, the bigger and the louder we are, the harder it is for people to ignore us. And like, March is Endometriosis Awareness Month. And so let's come together and like, let's
Make
flood
noise.
everybody's algorithm with endometriosis stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm down for collabs. Anybody who's
Me
interested.
too. Yep. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, I asked you, I think it was like one of the first times when I started my page for Endo Warriors, I was like, would love to collab. And automatically you were like, of course. So, and that's how I am. Like, I'm all about helping others, and both Pam and I, and it doesn't have to be us. You could find somebody else within the community, but just know that Pam and I are two of a lot of people that are open and willing to be here for you if you are looking for connection and community. And we both will be at the Endo Summit too. So if you're going, let us know so we can put faces to socialgram handles.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all the information is on Endo Summit, on the Endo Summit Instagram. I'm trying to pull it up as we speak. And it's a 3-day event. It's the
27th to the 29th.
Yeah, the 27th. Hold on. I don't want to give people the wrong information. It's the 27th, the 28th, and the 29th. So that's a whole weekend. And we will be there. It's at the Melia Orlando. Callie and I will be there. If we're able to find time to a pool, please, I want to go to the pool.
We're gonna go to the pool and have a cocktail, sweetheart.
Yeah. So you'll see us there. But let us know. I'd love to do like a little meetup while we're there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I put it up on my socials, but again, like, I will put it up again as we get closer to, like, anybody who is going and wants to and feels comfortable enough sharing their contact information. I was going to start like a WhatsApp kind of thread so that anybody who is going, we can be on that. So like, we can do like, okay, everybody meet at this place at this time, so we can all just cry and hug.
Yes. Yes. Like, my flight's here. Is anyone carpooling? Like that, that type of energy.
Totally. Let's do it. So, again, Pam, thank you for coming on. It's been such an honor to me to be able to find you in this community. And I'm excited to finally meet you, and just appreciate your vulnerability and trusting me to come on here and, put your story out to the public.
Thanks, Callie. I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
I hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. All right,
Thanks. Thanks
guys.
everyone for
That's it
listening.
for today. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, that is it for today's episode of Endo Warriors. Thank you so much for listening. And please don't forget to hit follow, leave a review so more Endo babes can find us. And tune in next time for a brand new episode. Bye.